All right. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:35. Would you please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Lord, we are gathered here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me just get this closer. Roll call, please.
Lorraine,
Present.
Shoemaker, present. Pardon me. Mathis,
Here.
Krug is present. Kessler,
Here.
Gopel,
Here.
Tucker.
Present.
You have a full board.
To the members of the audience, this program is being televised. We have 4 cameras here. Now, the times have changed. I've been telling you it's every day of the week, and I meant to bring the list. But Tom, was it Tuesday and through Friday?
I
New
don't
times.
have the schedule handy, but
I'll
there's a
tell
schedule on the
you.
website.
Okay. So that you can turn on, and it's Charter 191. You're welcome to come up to, we would like you to come up to the podium, give your name, but you do not have to give your address. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Approval of tonight's agenda as stands.
So moved. Support.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. I just have a quick piece of information in regards to the meeting. Normally, we let the meeting go on to whatever time. We try anyway. Tonight, though, we have to go into a workshop at 9 o'clock. So what I'm going to say is you're welcome to come up. You're welcome to say whatever you want to say. Each person has 5 minutes. But at 9 o'clock, I got to shut this meeting down to go into a workshop. Included in the packet are the minutes for the July 11th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requests for the meeting minutes?
I had Tom fix the mosquitoes, but it wasn't really broke as it turns out. Did anybody notice that?
The what?
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes?
Yeah, twice. There was no Q. in
Well, that's hard to
mosquito.
figure it out then.
But then when I went to copy and paste it, and the whole word came out. So it's
Something with a
software
printer?
trickeration going on there.
When I'm combining the files into one, if it doesn't like, if there's a document in there that I didn't create, and in this case, I think it's the household hazardous waste notice, it throws off the fonts, and some characters just don't show up. They're there, but they don't show up. It's really odd. We're working with the IT guy to fix it. We thought we had it, and it jumped up again, so. The minutes they're actually okay.
Case of the missing Qs.
All right. The minutes stand approved as presented. Expenditures. Are there any questions regarding any of the expenditures that are in front of you? If none, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $196,025.05.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
I vote yes. Mathis,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, this is a public hearing, and it's Fenton Township Parks and Recreational Planned Amendment. Can you hear me? Okay. The Township Board has held a public input session on June the 20th to gather input from the amendment to our Parks and Rec plan. That information was then drafted for the information was used to draft the amendment, which has been on file at Township for the last 2 weeks. Tonight we are conducting a formal public hearing on the proposed planned amendment, and tonight we will vote on it because this is the second reading. Am I right, Tom?
We can
We will vote
adopt
on
the
it.
resolution.
Yeah, we'll get this thing taken care of. All right, I'm going to put it up for public comment. If you'd like to speak, and you have 5 minutes, please, and
Bonnie, did you want to have Doug talk first?
Usual, I come bearing gifts.
Doug?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Victor, before you, oh, I'm sorry, Victor. Before you speak, I have a gentleman in the audience, Doug Schultz.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
No
I would
problem.
like from Row Engineering to speak. Yeah, you go right up there.
So we've got quite an audience here of interested stakeholders that I think were the thrust behind this amendment. At least some of the items that were included in the amendment to better justify some of the non-motorized planning that has taken place throughout the county and most specifically within the community here. That is one of the goals and objective statements and action items that were addressed within the proposed amendment here within the plan. And other things included updates to the Township Park plan and just some other minor wording, but really the thrust of this amendment was to create a document that better positions the township as well as the other communities within the region to pursue grants for non-motorized pathway improvements and the maintenance thereof. So that's what I have to
Is
summarize.
that what you have? I bet
And,
you Victor's got a little more than.
I'm sure he does.
That's fine, Doug. Is there any questions for Doug? Okay,
All right.
thank you, Doug. Victor, you're welcome to come
Known
up.
Doug forever. He knows me well too. Bearing gifts. I think there's an extra one here for Doug, so I will pull this out. And if not, we'll get it redirected back up to you. I didn't put them in envelopes this time. I just stapled them together. If you remember, we're a non-profit organization. I couldn't afford any envelopes. So staples are cheap.
3. I don't know, Tom, if there's one for you. We'll try. Here.
Okay, Victor Lukasavitz, member of the Board of Directors for the LAFF Pathways Incorporated, nonprofit group trying to assist in development of non-motorized facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists and other users throughout our communities. I had sent some comments into you regarding, well, let me back up for a minute. The first stapled card there is our new LAFF marketing card. The second one is a fundraiser that's going on, which I hope you all participate in, sponsored by the Southern Lakes Park and Rec, of which we get a pretty large sum of funding for the trail system from it. And I know you'll all be there with your bicycles to join us to have fun on August 6th. That picture that I show of the bridge, I just took today as I was riding my bike down North Road. We talked earlier about being proactive with getting bridge consideration construction to include pathways for future work. This particular bridge, you read the plaque on top, was built in 1928. If you look at that picture showing the pillar tipping over, the plaque will be in the river pretty quick, so I assume someone's going to be rebuilding that bridge. So in addition to the expressway bridges we spoke of at the last meeting, this would be an ideal bridge to consider putting a pathway segment alongside when it's reconstructed. And North Road is one of the target roads in the mapping we provided before for a pathway. I'd like to thank you for moving forward with this project, your Park and Rec plan. I hope it doesn't become what I've frequently called in some communities a dust study. We do a study, put it on the shelf, politics change, seats change, and all of a sudden it's forgotten, so it collects dust. I hope we all keep it close to our heart and active. With all the incidents of bicycle deaths and injuries of late from Kalamazoo all the way through to just yesterday by Coldwater, Michigan, the League of Michigan Bicycle Tour Director was hit and ran by a woman under the influence of alcohol. So it's just more important to come up with these safe pathways for all of us to use as pedestrians or bicyclists, students, seniors, and children. I gave you some comments a while back related to your Park and Rec plan via email. I wasn't sure if it went through, so I hand-delivered a copy, and I've also given you a copy here. So I guess I'm curious as to the status of those, which if you'd like, Doug and I can talk tomorrow or something to shorten the involvement in the meeting here unless he wants to answer those. But the other attachment I sent there was following our last meeting. When we write plans like this, there's two things that happen. You have a specificness, which is the Thompson Road corridor, the Fenton Road corridor, Silver Lake Road corridor, whatever it might be, to develop a trail facility in, and there's always something comes up later that you don't think about or realize. So a generalized statement being placed in there to be a catch-all so that you can acquire funding later and the DNR and other people don't look at you and say, well, you didn't consider this before, it's not part of your plan. So I urge you to put something similar to what I gave you on the top of page 2 of that earlier email in your plan in order to be a catch-all in case something comes up later that wasn't discovered in these public hearings and conversations and planning. I kind of word scoped something that was in a resolution that the township did back in 2010 with a couple other things that are in your current park and rec plan and gave you some suggested wording for that. So I would really seriously offer a suggestion to consider something like that. Your plan is, I think, is approvable by the DNR, which is the goal in order to accommodate funding and other things, but I think there's two other things could be included in there. And I realize it's late to do that now, but it's a function the board could do on its own. We have a lot of words in there and map lines and information that says, geez, this is a good place to put a trail, potentially. We don't have a facility plan, we don't have a budgetary plan. In order for your treasurer and your clerk and those who sit on a budget committee at the beginning of each year to realize what monies might be needed for something to match grants or to pay for engineering or to rehire Doug, whatever it might be, need some kind of plan in there that you can just open a book and everybody will remember what happened and not have to think about it. It doesn't matter whether it's a park project or a trail project. And a listing of pathway, park, facility partners. You have baseball field people, you have our LAFF, you have Southern Lakes Park and Rec, you have Lake Fenton Schools, and there are certain tasks that will have to be accomplished by someone that can do it and it won't cost you any money. So therefore, if you had a task matrix in there and a list of partners with it and just a simple check off on it to say, geez, Southern Lakes Park and Rec could do this, Lake Fenton School could do this, our group could do this in the activities needed to accomplish a goal, then you know who to go and look at and who to talk to and visit with immediately without searching your mind to say, who can we get to volunteer to do this? So it's a good process, like having a functional path in your business plan. If you're developing a business plan, you want to develop 150 new customers to do something in your business. Well, you put a lot of words down on your document, but if you don't have a budget plan and a task plan, you're never going to accomplish that. It's the same thing with the park and rec plan and trying to place facilities, whether it's a park or a trail, whatever it might be. So please consider doing that. I have samples I can give you. I'm sure Doug has samples. It can be done after you approve this plan, but it's something you can pull out on a yearly basis when you're doing budgetary work or setting down to plan a facility and say, geez, these people said they would help us. And it's very important to have that. So if you can develop that, I'd be willing to assist. I'm sure Doug can help you accomplish the same thing. We want to see these paths on the ground. We want to see the parks completed, and there's a lot of partners, collaborators out there that will work with you if they're identified. So thanks again. We want to see the trails on the ground. We want to see the parks developed, and we appreciate you taking this step, but please consider going just a little bit further for the planning part of it. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Is there anyone else? Okay. I will close this public hearing in regards to the amendment. Any board discussion in regards to it? All right, resolution number 2016-08. Clerk Crew, would you please read?
Not till I find it.
You want mine?
Still.
Got it?
You got it written out.
Yeah.
Love computers.
Is this,
No.
no,
Oh, 8 you're looking for?
yeah, we're looking.
Go ahead and read it, John.
Thanks, Bob.
Anytime.
All right, resolution 2016-08. Resolution to adopt and amend the Fenton Township 2014-2018 Parks and Rec Plan, whereas the Charter Township of Fenton has undertaken a Parks and Recreation Plan amendment, which describes changes to the 5-year Parks and Recreation Plan originally adopted in 2014 and indicates actions to be taken to improve and maintain recreation facilities during the same 5-year period. And whereas a public comment session was held on June 20, 2016 at the Fenton Township Civic Community Center to provide an opportunity for citizens to provide input to be included in the Recreation Plan Amendment. And whereas a public hearing was held on July 25, 2016 at the Fenton Township Civic Community Center to provide an opportunity for citizens to express opinions, ask questions, and discuss all aspects of the Recreation Plan Amendment. And whereas after the public hearing, the Fenton Township Board has determined to move forward with the adoption of said Recreation Plan Amendment. Now therefore be it resolved, the Township Board of the Charter Township of Fenton hereby adopts the Fenton Township Parks and Recreation Plan 2014-2018 amendment as presented.
You want to move a motion?
And we get there. Motion to, yeah, I will move the resolution.
I'll second it. All in favor signify by, you want a roll call? Okay, let's do a roll call, please.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
I vote no. Mathis.
Yes. All right. Reports. In your packet is the Code Enforcement Officer's quarterly report. And it's kind of a short one, but this is what it's saying. During this quarter, the Ordinance Enforcement Department documented nearly 97 incidences. Of these incidents, there was 77 have been brought to a successful conclusion. The remaining incidents are still open for investigation. Then he tells some of them was tall grass, dog control. We're at the very top. People in the township do not realize that there is dog ordinances, a leash law, and there is also the amount of dogs you can have, which is up to 3. And then you have a special use permit for a kennel license. So, but we do go and investigate the neighbors and count the dogs and things like that. But barking dogs, if you have problems with barking dogs, you definitely contact the township. The code enforcement officer will go out and will take care of that matter. Some of the other things that incidences, and he gives this quarterly report. Blight, we did 15 of them in this quarter, second quarter. Zoning issues was 11. Complaints, 82. Investigations, 165. Sign removals, 22. And telephone calls, 180. So he is an extremely busy man, and his name is Tom Hosey. Are there any committee reports to be made? None? Okay, we'll go on. Communications, hazardous waste. We've got a good thing coming up. It's the recycle date. And guess where it's going to be? It's going to be here in the township. Now, this bulletin is for Saturday, August the 20th, between 10 and 2. And it's going to be at Lake Fenton High School on Laring Road. Now, the other one is the water service plant on East Court, Flint. This sign will be posted. You can come in and get, Tom, do they have copies on the counter?
Yes, ma'am.
Come and get them, and you can get rid of a lot of your things. Take them there, and some of them are like your tires, your paint, batteries, many things. Air conditioners. If it's broken, you can get rid of it now. So anyway, this is, I think, the first time we've had it here in quite a long time.
Been a while.
Yeah. All right. Excuse my voice. It's just going. Adoption of ordinances. This happens to be a rezoning, and it's R16003. Charles Chapel. This is parcel 0603-200-014. The address on this rezoning is 11220 Torrey Road. And he wants to rezone from R3 to M2. There's quite a few categories. It's light industrials, M2. So this is the first reading for this rezoning of the property. I'll tell you where this property is. Torrey Road, north of Thompson Road, you see the bowling alley, and then right behind the bowling alley is a building, and it is Chapel Electric, and it's on the west side of Torrey Road. So he wants to get it, instead of residential, he wants to put it into light industrial so he can park his trucks. Right, Jen? And it went up in front of the Planning Commission. So I'm going to let Mr. Tucker just explain. Is Mr. Chappell in the audience? Okay. You want to explain in regards to it?
Certainly. This actually started out as a request to rezone from residential to M2 straight. Okay, and if you look through the list of things in M2, there's a lot of things in there. So the consensus of the Planning Commission was that they didn't really want to entertain a straight rezone to M2 and suggested conditional rezoning to M2. And effectively what the discussion was, nobody was offended by what Mr. Chappell's been doing for 35 years from this place. So the attempt was made by the applicant at that same meeting to come up with a list of conditions that would restrict it to doing essentially the same thing he's been doing without complaint for, I forgot what he said, it was a long time. We'll say 35 years, long time. Now, a little bit of backstory, because if you all will recall, this particular location is also part of the Thompson Road Corridor Study. So normally, the recommendation from the Planning Commission would be, no, this isn't consistent with it, because remember, we have big box things planned for there. But the frank reality is, we have a bowling alley, and we have a new 100,000 square foot manufacturing light industrial building going up as we speak now, and this is really a very small portion relative to those two things. So I think the Planning Commission, and I'm the one that brought this up, is I think we need to relook at the Thompson Road Corridor Study in light of what has actually gone in there, and see whether it's still realistic. I think the consensus was we didn't really want to hold this gentleman up from continuing to do. This wasn't a scenario where a violation report came in and he said oops and was asking for forgiveness after the fact, although he'll acknowledge what he's been doing has not been permitted by the zoning classification. So at the end of the day, there was a list of conditions. They should be in your material, but the basic gist of what was trying to be accomplished, the Planning Commission didn't have any objection to what he was doing, and the recommendation to this board would be to rezone the parcel to M2 conditional with that list of conditions, effectively continuing what he's been doing.
And the board, your board approved it?
Yeah, it was unanimous. Unanimous, yeah. Well, we didn't approve it, we recommended approval
to us. Is there any, yes, go ahead.
All right, well, my question is to John. What is his reason for coming to your board if nothing's been going on and it's status quo?
There's a generational handoff going on.
Yeah.
And I think his son has been talking in his ear for a number of years, you need to get this cleaned up. You need to get this cleaned up, so.
The reason I ask that is because I seem to recall we allowed somebody else on the same corner, southeast corner,
Southeast.
where the bank was.
The bank?
Yeah.
It just seems to me that, we've got conditions, but there was a condition there that he didn't tell us about, that he implied it was going to be used for something else, and he snuck this in on us, being the car lot.
I don't remember the conditions on that.
Well, it wasn't an actual specific, it was implied when he's up here at the podium telling us what he's going to do, and the minute we gave it to him, he does something else.
Well, that's shame on us if we didn't tie it
It
down
is.
with our
That's why I'm
conditions.
bringing this up. What
This
have
is
we done our due diligence on this, that this is exactly what his intent is, and there's nothing else that's going to slide in underneath
Well, this is all he can do. I mean, what is in the list is all he can do. And so we need to take a hard look, because it was developed at the meeting. It wasn't like we spent a lot of time talking or thinking about it. There was a pretty quick consensus that what he's doing has not been offensive to the neighbors. There was nobody in the audience.
I understand that,
came,
but,
so-
but again, with this new, more industrial-friendly rezoning he's requesting, it's just kind of raising a red flag for me.
All right, the reason why, and I will tell you this, Charlie has come to Valerie many times in the past. Now he has retired, and the one son has bought the business, or in the process of buying. Charlie said, it's going to be a lot easier for me to go through this than have the son. And so the business, it's the same business, everything. But Valerie would, she told
Okay.
me how many times he's come and he just never brought it up in front of the planning commission.
All right,
Did everybody find the list? It's in the minutes. It's on page 106, 136.
John, what's allowed?
Yes.
I got it right here.
Yeah.
So-
Well, that's, no, I'm saying, I want to make sure, Mark was asking a question about the list. I want to make sure everybody found it and understood that that's what we're talking about. And the conditions, limited to contractors' establishment with limited outdoor storage. Trucks, vans parked on site will be limited to 6 to 10 vehicles. Building will contain an office. Any materials stored outside will be screened from the public view. Hours of operation 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday with occasional weekends. And that was what the list was. So the way conditional zoning works, we can either say yes to those conditions, or if you think there are more, or you'd rather have something different, we can't tell them what it is.
No,
We can tell them what
I
our
understand,
concerns are and
John.
ask them to
I'm
come
just-
back and change it.
I
And we'd vote
just-
no if you didn't like that list.
I understand that. Now, at your meeting, did any neighbors come in and
No.
reply at all?
Nope.
And it was posted that
Yes.
this meeting is...
And it was mailed notice within
And then
300
in the
feet.
paper.
Yep, okay.
I know we don't want to hold him up, but shouldn't we wait till we rediscuss the Thompson corridor? That's, it's my problem area, I think, as it is. And I think most of our residents, as they drive down through there, would agree with me. I hate giving somebody even a conditional approval, and then we come in with an idea that we want to do something completely different, and it's going to hold us up. And if it hasn't been hurting him and we haven't been bugging him, I don't think waiting would kill him.
Yeah, it wasn't the township.
So,
He came in on his own.
Actually came in with that same mindset. Where I'm at is it's such a small piece in the corner of what we're talking about, surrounded by a bowling alley on the south, large building to the west.
well, yeah, but
That site isn't going to come into play with anything we do that I can see. But I started at that same point. I know exactly what you're saying.
Then why are we rezoning?
We're, that's,
It was the resident wanting non-residential. He wanted to be able to get this zoned so it'll be correct.
don't have to
For
do
what-
anything. That's what we're here for tonight. I'm just,
John, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just thinking maybe let's take a step back and look at what we want to do in that area, and then because it might not affect it at all. You might be right.
I just know the geography and I've been watching the construction. I just don't see any way that small piece is gonna
Make a
hinge
difference.
the Thompson Road corridor. Because, from a purely planning standpoint, in a strict construction kind of thing, that's 100% correct what you're saying. In fact, we should say no based on a 100% pure,
Plan.
what's your master plan, this is what you're planning for. But I just know the actual reality of what's out there. Yeah, that's the only,
No,
it's pragmatic more than
I know,
anything
but
else.
like I said, I would like to believe we'd stick to the master plan. I would like to believe that's what we put it there.
Yeah.
And
We need to fix
also-
it. And really what changed it is the 100,000 square foot building. Bowling alley's been there a long time. And that PUD for that building, and I'm not opposed to the building, I don't want anybody to say that, but that was approved a long time ago. And I sat through the Thompson Road Corridor study sessions.
And we didn't.
And we didn't know that there was a PUD hanging out here for this kind of a building. Because that probably would have affected what we were talking about putting in that area. Because if you're talking, we had big box in the back, we were talking restaurants, and that's all great, but it isn't going to happen with that building there now. We're going to have to figure out
We have to do
something
a
else.
change. You're right.
And
We
this
have to
corner to
update
me, it isn't going to change whatever we're doing in the big picture.
But the,
No.
No, you're right, Vince. You and Sean are right. I'm not arguing with you.
the current, just because we didn't have neighbors show up is going to affect, maybe the current neighbors don't mind, but what about future neighbors? What about somebody that buys the house just north, or the house just north of that?
Well, that's, anybody that buys in the future
Is going to know that.
will know, or can find out that this is in fact zoned M2 conditionally if we proceed with that. If we don't, we don't.
He's come in and talked to the assessor. The assessor would like to see this happen, you know, to
Well,
give
she's
it the
trying to
right
get
zoning.
it, she's trying to get it matched with what's really going on out there, is I think what she's.
But our master plan on Thompson Road, like you said, is disaster right now. It's just totally disaster. Thompson Road is going to be widened to 3-lane, you know, that's going to be coming up. And so, but it's going to take a while to start that all over again. And now we really have to think because of what we've put in there. And you're right.
Thank you, sir.
So it's not that, like I said, it's not that I want to say no. I would like to have all of our options still on the table when we do look at that.
At one time, a year and a half ago, there was somebody living in the house. But it's been a year and a half, nobody's lived in there. So again, that's why but it doesn't matter to him. He was just trying to do the right thing. All right, is there any public comment in regards to this? Okay. The second reading of the proposed ordinance will be on October the 8th. Rezoning of R16.
October the 8th?
August.
I'm sorry, what did I say, October 8th? That's my mother's birthday.
rush
I
to
don't
your
know why.
body faster than
I honest to God.
Pat, you were brilliant. You were brilliant.
Yeah.
I have that happen a lot too.
See you later.
Say a couple words and everybody leaves. Yes. Oh, you weren't here? Weren't you here when they? We had about 120 in here. We were a stack of chairs up. They do.
All right, we will continue. The next reading is a rezoning of R16004, Steve Steffi, parcel 0604-200-017. This is north of 415 Thompson Road, and they have R2 zoning, and they want to put it to R3. The difference between R2 is low density, R3 is medium density, and this is the first reading of this rezoning property. Mr. Steffi is in the audience. Would you like to speak, Stephen, or would you like Mr. Tucker to go ahead and explain it to us?
I'll abstain from speaking. Let Mr. Tucker
Okay, Mr. Tucker, because he's on the planning
If I
commission.
think he misunderstood, we'll speak up.
Okay. All right, John.
Well, we had 3 rezonings that night, which is really quite unusual for where we've been going. And I will tell you, we had one that I thought was fairly easy rezoning. I thought one that was kind of a moderate difficulty. And I thought one was really hard. Okay? This is what I thought was the really easy one. Okay, what Mr. Steffi is doing, he owns the property right now, and one of the neighbors, and the residents in the area, has an easement through that area. And it's a poorly drafted easement. And I think in lieu of trying to figure out the restrictions and the do's and the don'ts with respect to the easement, he's just decided to sell it or convey it to this resident to add to the resident's parcel. And so they're going to fragment that off, add it to the resident's parcel. The problem is, you've seen this before, they're zoned differently, and before you can add them together, we need to
Gotta have the same
rezone them. This particular parcel is all master plan for medium density residential, so the distinction between R2 and R3 is meaningless as far as the master plan goes. Both of those zonings are consistent with that with that zoning classification, and I think the board, the planning commission, rather quickly and certainly unanimously recommended this change to facilitate that transfer.
And this piece of property is Vantage Point subdivision off of Thompson Road. All right, is there any public comment in regards to this? All right, the second reading of the proposed ordinance will be on August the 8th meeting. Okay, and that's the time that we vote. Unfinished business. A reminder.
You got one more rezoning.
One more thing.
Oh, we do. We have the chicken. Right.
Am I required to be there? Because I'll actually be out of town on vacation.
He's not required.
We
No.
typically don't even have public comment sometimes, but you can see the resistance you got today, so.
Yeah, you would not have to be.
All right, so then what you vote on at the August 8th meeting, then I will just get the minutes and be able to move forward with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Rezoning, this is the next one, R16005, Michael Kraus, parcel 06, 19, 100, 034, and 06, 19, 100, 021. The address on this is 14083 Hogan Road. This is from R3 to R1. This is the first reading of the zoning ordinance amendment to rezone this property on Hogan Road. Treasurer Tucker, because again, you're on the Planning Commission, could you give us your input?
Certainly. Well, the last one we did was the easiest one. The first one that we did was the moderate one from my point of view. So that tells you what this one is. And we, the Planning Commission, really struggled with this one. You have a unanimous recommendation, and so you know that, but that doesn't adequately convey the difficulty of this decision, and it's because it's a close call. It's admittedly an extremely close call. What we have in front of you is a request to what we typically refer to as a down zone. Okay, we're going to a more restrictive zoning classification, generally speaking, than what it is right now. And it's down zoning only because we're going from R3 back to R1. The reason the request is here is chickens. It's plain and simple. That's what it's about. It's about chickens. Okay? The property is currently zoned R3, which does not allow for chickens. If you rezone it back to R1, it does allow for chickens. It allows for chickens with a conditional use permit. Okay? So, depending on how the board feels about this, and I told these folks, the participants are here. We had active community input. We had applicants. We had neighbors. Everybody's passionate about their position. I'll tell you that right out of the gate. And I don't fault any of them for being passionate about their position, but they were in conflict with each other civilly in front of us, but the ideology is different. At the end of the day, the recommendation was to deny the requested rezone, and I'll tell you kind of why, because I probably had something to do with it. I get running my mouth. If you look in the master plan, and you try and find what it says about ag and R1 zoning districts, you don't have far to go. It's right in the very first part of the district thing. And what it says is that you will not find these districts in the master plan. I'm going to paraphrase here, because if you actually look at the literal language, you could debate with me exactly what it means. But I was around when it was pushed through, so I'm going to tell you what I think it was intended to say. I think you can argue about what the words actually say. But what the words were intended to say is, look, we know we have ag zoning and R1 zoning out in the township. The intention of the master plan is to allow those to continue forward. But they're not in the master plan as a go-forward mechanism, because essentially they want to be phased out over time. Okay, we're not forcing anybody out. We're not doing anything like that, but we don't want to encourage ag and R1 zonings more in favor with the medium density residential is what the master plan says. Okay, just what the master plan says. This property, probably when we went back through in 2002, I can't tell you with certainty, it might have even been zoned ag back in the day. When we went through the zoning amendment, what we did after all the changes were made is if a parcel was non-conforming with the rules we're then creating, we zoned most all of those parcels to be conforming. So I'm guessing that this parcel was probably changed back in 2002 from something, can't tell you what, to R3, because that's what it conformed with at the time. So there was a lot of discussion about chickens, whether it's a good idea, a bad idea. Really a lot of angst between the parties and the planning commission, there was no real strong sense of this side's right, that side's right. They both made good arguments. Nobody was being ridiculous or even difficult. They just have strongly held opinions on both sides of the equation here. The property itself, when you look at it, and I will come out, I got an email that this gentleman was looking for me to come out on site. We got a couple weeks before we have to vote on this. And if anybody else wants to take the trip, we can consolidate or just come on out. But the parcel, if you can look at the maps and things, it's got a lot of wetland on it. So it's roughly half wetland and half upland. So, and the upland is roughly 5 to 6 acres. There have been complaints from the neighbors about the chickens roaming, and the applicant has acknowledged that the chickens are free-range chickens. So I don't think there's a denial that they've crossed property lines. The magnitude of the significance of that would vary depending on who you were talking to. So anyway, that's after much ado. It was a very difficult application for us to review. I think it's a very difficult application for this board to make a decision on, because I think you can make intelligent arguments on both sides of this equation.
So chickens are already on the property?
Yes.
How many?
5.
5 chickens?
5? No, I'm getting shakes from the head. That's why I'm going from my memory. I didn't bring my notes in here. I'm sorry?
At the planning board, he said 9.
9? Do you agree with that?
I heard that. I don't count them regularly, but that's what
Is 9 about the right number?
it was 9.
Yeah. I didn't bring my notes, and I'm over 50, so I've slept a couple of times since then.
All right. I'm going to open it up to public comment. If you'd like to come up and speak, just give your name and...
Could I say a few words?
Oh, yeah, you're public. Yes, absolutely,
I'd like
sir.
to, if I could, you've all seen all of this before, including especially Mr. Tucker, but this might be a little bit different, show the property in a different way. You've all looked at all maps. And, you know, looking at zoning maps and the rest of it, I should go over there, I know. But I just wanted to be able to see. This is the property we're talking about. This is Hogan Road. This is north. All the property to the east, to the north, and to the south, it's all that wetland. There's not going to be any development there. If you look across the street, because this is the reality of it, no 2D map can do it justice. This is why it would be great if you could come out and see it. But if I could...
Now, let me ask you, are you Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Okay. So you're the chicken man?
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, I bought this property 20 years ago, so we were here long before most of these other people, especially the complainant. You mentioned neighbors, there's only one neighbor.
How long have the chickens been there?
20 years.
Watch your step.
Well, yeah.
I will watch my step. I would like to, the R1 is compromised. I wanted agriculture. Is it okay if I stand here?
Sure, that's fine.
I wanted agriculture, but other people here at Fenton Township, that's kind of hard to get. We don't like to do it. I should mention, though, you know, I have your current zoning map here. And Mr. Tucker's right, you know, but you
We
know,
have it here in your packet.
I'm out here,
Yep.
right here. All this grain, obviously, it's agricultural. This is an agricultural area. One of the members on the planning commission went on to great length talking about being a member of the Sportsman's Club. He got his biggest buck right here that he'd ever got. So there's Sportsman's Club, there's a water treatment plant, and you know, within less than 1 mile up here, there's 5 other places that has chickens. You go up the road, there's nothing but chickens, goats, horses, and everything else. But anyway, this was suggested by people here at Fenton Township, and talking about the ag. And she thinks a better way to go was the option to request R1, a special use permit. The R1 district is called for in the future land use And I know that is or should be the first consideration of the Planning Commission and the Township Board. If you look on your future land use map, you can clearly see it's low density. And it is, and this is on these other maps that we have here. I just wanted to show that it is indeed low density. And it went right from originally agricultural when I bought it from Cecil Canoy right to R3. And that might have been the plan, but the reality of it is it's all low density, it's rural, it's country out there. And that's my point. And as far as chickens wandering, if that's a real concern, I don't like fences, but I'll put up a fence.
If you get R1, how many chickens are you planning on
Gonna
having?
say,
I will. My wife and my daughter do the work, and they don't really want many more. Personally, I want them to have 30, so, but it would never be more than that. I doubt that it would go beyond 20.
all right, if you're gonna have 30 chickens, how many roosters? No roosters?
They don't want roosters.
Good, all right.
Anyway, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else in the public that'd like to, you're welcome to come up. Yes, it just helps the audience hear you.
My name is Russ Tiedoff. I am, my wife Teresa and I are neighbors of the applicant.
You might have to talk into that mic a little
Sure,
bit
sure.
more.
To help out Mr. Tucker, I will say that I have no doubt that this area was zoned ag at one point. We have a photo, aerial photography or aerial photograph in our house, which was taken in 1969, which shows our house, which was the original farmhouse in that area, built in 1918, where Mr. Krause's current home is. In that photograph, there's cows, there's an outhouse. I have no doubt it was ag. I'm not disputing that at one point. However, that is no longer the case. It is not ag anymore. As I said, we've been neighbors with the Krauses for over 13 years now. We share a property line of roughly 400 feet, excluding the portions of our property which are wetlands. If you add in our wetland border, you're adding about 1,100 additional feet. Contrary to township regulations, the applicants have admitted to raising chickens on and off for several years, and as you heard tonight, apparently for the past 20 years. Now, I know you're wondering how is it that we may not have known that they've had chickens the entire time apparently that we've been there. Well, contrary to what Mr. Krause said tonight, he did not purchase the 1 acre parcel 20 years ago, as he said. That 1 acre parcel where his home is right now and where those chickens are and where his chicken coop are was purchased maybe 15 years ago at most from the Turoviches, not the Canoys. The 10 acres, which most of which is all wetlands, is the parcel that he apparently used to have the chickens on, which is the other side of the property, which only has a small area which isn't wetlands, which is why we never knew about it. Since they moved the chickens within the last year, they failed to keep the chickens on their own property, allowing them on a routine basis to wander onto our lawn. And yes, we have photographs. Additionally, the applicant's daughter walks around the yard snuggling with the chickens almost on a daily basis that we witness, which is a serious health risk as cited by several CDC notices. In one such notice, citing a study after multiple salmonella outbreaks in the U.S. were thought to be connected to backyard chickens, 146 of 183 people contracting salmonella reported coming into contact with live poultry before becoming ill. Of those returning complete questionnaires to the CDC as part of this study, 57% reported holding or snuggling poultry prior to becoming ill. While I understand this evening's hearing is not directly to address a request for raising chickens, the applicant's own statement in their letter of intent for this rezoning application indicates their only purpose for wanting to be rezoned R1 is to raise poultry. Not only are we against the applicants having poultry so close to our property, within 70 feet is where their chicken coop is, we are very much against adding an R1 property to a neighborhood of roughly 30 R3 and R2 residences. In fact, the 2 R1 properties closest to our neighborhood are approximately 2 miles away. There's one to the south, there's one to the north. Given where the applicant has built his chicken coop just 70 feet from our property line, we are the neighbors most greatly affected by their plans. We love our property just as I'm sure the applicants do theirs, but permitting them to rezone to an R1 and thus opening the door to a special use permit puts an undue burden on us. My wife and I used to love sitting on our back deck looking at the wetlands and listening to the wildlife contained therein. It's why we bought our home. We both grew up in areas far more rural than where our home is now, so please don't get me wrong. We have nothing against farming, but the applicant's property is not a farm. Yet since purchasing our home next door, the applicants have gone from having just a couple outdoor cats to having 4 dogs, 4 cats, and 9 chickens. We can't help but wonder what this will do to our property value. I know we certainly wouldn't have bought our home under the current conditions created by the applicants. We can't even walk out our deck we can't even walk onto our deck or around our backyard without their 4 dogs barking incessantly. We didn't buy our home next to an animal farm, and we don't want one developing in front of our eyes. Opening the door to the applicants raising chickens will do just that. We know this because they've been doing it illegally, at least since sometime last year that we know of, and thus have taken away the ability to enjoy our own property as intended. Finally, while we understand that after combining the applicant's 2 properties, it is technically large enough to be rezoned in R1, the reality is, however, that at least 50% of their total property is wetlands. I think this, along with the fact that all other properties in our immediate area are R2 and R3, should be considered when determining if a property meets the criteria to be zoned in R1. For all these reasons, we respectfully request the application for rezoning from R3 to R1 be denied. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? Yes, ma'am. John, show me where Mr. Krause's house is.
Hello, my name's Jamie Rieger. I am neighbors of the Tidoffs, and
I think, Jamie, you got to talk a little louder on.
I am neighbors to the Tidoffs and the
You're a neighbor
Krauses.
to both of them?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I just wanted to express my opinion that I don't like the noise. The chickens are a disturbance on our peace and quiet. I can hear them. They don't come over into my property or my land. Their cats do, but the chickens don't. But I can only imagine how many people are affected by the noise of the chickens. Don't get me wrong, I love chickens. I eat eggs every day, but you know what? I can go down the road. There's the Durham Farms right there in Gaines Township on Seymour Road. You can get fresh eggs, fresh chickens. So I don't really think that it's really a big issue to raise your own poultry or whatnot. So I can only imagine the mobile home park across the river. I'm sure they can hear the chickens squawking too. So it's just not affecting me and my other neighbors. So I think that's all I would like to say.
Before you run off, will you tell me where you're located? Are you north of the?
Just south.
Just south.
Or south.
Yep, 14109.
Okay.
She must be one of these front lots.
Well,
I am a resident at the home, yes.
She's south.
This is so.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah, I
two
just
doors
showed by
down
you.
from
I
you
thought
south.
that's where the other folks were at.
Here.
She said she's there. Yeah.
All right, the area that's red, that's got to be Mr. Krause's. Krause's. And then the area that's not would be.
I'm not sure what map he showed you, but I could show you on the map.
Yeah, would you, please?
If I can help, Ms. Rieger is to our south, so she's 2 properties to the south of
That
Oh,
map that he brought up,
There.
I kind of wanted to point out where his chicken coop
All right,
is.
here is a piece of property. Is this Krause's right here?
No, Kraus is the
Wait a
red.
second here.
Krause's is red?
Ralston. So I am This is an old map or something. This isn't.
Oh, okay.
Here, let's do
Where's
that.
the map that he gave you? I kind of wanted to see that one too.
All right, there's current
Does that
one.
help?
Yeah, I am. This is the tip. That's me right there.
Okay.
So we
That's
kind
what
of
I
share
thought.
all this land here, you know, and it's his property's right there. So I mean, everything is just clear as day. The dogs bark like crazy at me when I'm over.
All right, let me ask you, how big is your piece of property? Is it an acre, 10, 5?
It's less than an acre.
Less than an acre? Mr. Kraus, how big is your property?
Who's that?
That's Mr. Claus.
Is Mr. Kraus,
Yeah.
pardon me?
Versus 15 acres? Sorry, are you talking to me?
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry.
How many acres is your property?
14.
14, and then yours
chickens were
is
here.
10
now they're here.
with this addition?
That's all.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in regards to this? All right, when
I see where that is.
I was writing some notes down, and when you were saying that the chicken coop is 70 feet from the property line, is that what you were saying?
Yes.
All right, I just real quick counted the ceiling tiles, and this building is 80 feet, what we're seeing right here. So that's,
It's more like 100 feet from the property line, but we're going to move it back to the other side anyway. We decided that for sure, because we're kind of tired of harassment.
okay,
Definitely, we are going to move them back.
okay.
You're going to move them back to where they originally were?
Yeah.
So you're going to move them back to where you folks never knew they even existed?
And about the roosters that currently do exist,
We're having a hard time hearing you.
Roosters.
there are roosters that are currently on the property.
Any questions from Mr. Crook?
Yeah, just a couple quick, easy questions, hopefully. Are you against chickens regardless of how they're controlled? Or are you against free-ranging chickens that could, it sounds like, do wind up in your yard? In my mind, there's a difference.
We would be against them having chickens altogether.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I noticed you mentioned cats and dogs. Are there issues about the dogs? Is that, all right, what really started it? Was it the chickens? Was it the dogs? Was it the cats? What started this? Because you've lived together 14 years next to each other, then all of a sudden, there's got to be a reason.
Yes, there was a catalyst. That catalyst was several years ago. I allowed another neighbor to hunt on my property.
Okay.
And the applicant called the sheriff's department and stated that that hunter was on his property.
Okay.
The maps which were provided by the applicant as part of this application clearly show that that area is my property, and yet he insists that that area is his.
So it really
Maps
isn't
show
the
otherwise.
chickens.
That's what started the dispute between us, quite frankly.
Yeah, there had to be something.
And everything just kind of, spiraled out from there.
Okay. Anyone else in regards to this? All right, John, let me ask you, now this is just a question I'm asking in general. He has 5, he said 30. If we did decide, could we put a limit to it?
This board can't.
This board can't.
But if this board were to approve the rezoning request, they still can't have chickens without a special use permit.
Okay,
So they would have to come back in front of the planning commission, who would determine whether or not to issue the special use permit, and if so, what would the conditions be? And I can assure you that if
They
it
would
went
put
back, it would be
conditions.
fences, and if
Yep.
Mr. Kraus is actually planning on moving it, back over onto the 10-acre parcel back where they were, that would be a condition. That's what it would be. But we're not here about chickens, but we're here about chickens. It's actually a rezoning
it's a
request.
rezoning is what we're doing.
And we're taking the metaphysical question of chickens up, and it's hard not to, because that's really what the issue is here. But if we keep it intellectually pure, like we were trying to do on the Township Road Corridor study, that's where the Planning Commission went with it, because it's hard. You can see, I think both of these folks, sorry, we now have 4 altogether.
pretty entrenched in their positions, and I think they're not. Nobody's being illogical. It's just you can argue this, but we're not doing a referendum on chickens.
No, we're not.
We're
No,
asking
it's about
about
zoning and whether we're gonna stick to what
the master plan.
says.
Well, I'm shocked the master plan said we're no longer encouraging ag or R1, frankly.
Well, that's why I
Because
said most people don't know that.
I'm always for zoning down.
Yeah.
I mean, any R3 that we get a chance, or any M class that we get a chance to zone down, I'll do that every time.
And I understand that.
And I'm just frankly, that's part of I think the draw of this community is that it's not overgrown. We still have a variety of, we've got everything here. We've got
We got
farms,
everything.
We've got lake,
Hogan.
manufacturing, mobile homes, and I don't know, any chance I see to zone down, I will take that every time.
Well, and what you're hearing tonight is exactly the argument why you wouldn't do that, because that encourages this kind of conflict. And that's not saying that you're wrong. I'm not trying to say that at all. I'm just telling you what the master plan does say. And a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that for a while.
I didn't
know
know
I
that.
was involved in the discussions, and I might have been Bert Culpepper at one time, said, I mean, we're going back, but now I'm the resident historian now, so I have to carry on the knowledge base. But that's, that's the way it's set up now. And again, if we're looking at Thompson Road Corridor Study, that could be something else you can look at. None of this stuff is in granite.
Sure.
Master plan is supposed to be the longer range plan, and that's what's kind of supposed to guide you. But I tell you, we went on the procedural aspect because the substantive issue of chickens, it's hard to decide.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
But here,
Right now, you can go into the city of Fenton and you can have a
five.
certain number of chickens.
You can have 5.
Maybe that's where you got 5 from. But things have changed since we've done the master plan.
Well, when-
Urban agriculture didn't exist back when we did that.
Well, R1, it says it can have a kennels, 3 to 6 dogs. You can,
I'm just saying, if we're going back to
Agriculture.
procedure, like you said, any chance I can see to keep the density down, personally, I'm all for it.
well, I agree with you, but I also disagree in the sense that, and not saying disappointed with the Planning Commission, but I agree a little bit more with Sean in the sense that, just like a business, you have a strategic plan and you stick to the strategic plan. If you don't sit and make a strategic plan, and then all of a sudden decide to make little small changes, because those little small changes affect the whole strategic plan of your company. And we, or you as the Planning Commission, to me, you say, well, it's just a little piece of property north of the bowling alley. To me, then we have to take a look at the macro and maybe make a change to the strategic plan, or in this case, the master plan,
on that
if this
one we
township
do.
wants to call it, before we start sitting there changing zoning of properties, because that is not I don't think that's the right thing for us to do.
Well, and don't indict the whole planning commission for it, because the way the other application played out, right up front, we said not going to be M2, conditional zoning we would consider, and that it was actually at that point postponed. And we thought it was going to come back at another meeting, because I was going to ask the planning commission the very question you raised. What is your feeling with respect to the Thompson Road Corridor Study with respect to this application? Well, and the applicant came in right at the very end of the meeting and said, I really want to get on tonight's hearing, so here's my list. And I never got to ask the question. So I understand what you're saying. I don't know exactly what their thought is on that application with respect to the Thompson Road Corridor Study. I intended to ask the question, but the way it played out, I did not. I would presume, because they voted unanimously to recommend the conditional rezoning, that they probably agreed with what I was saying, is that we need to look at it, we need to change it, because it's not practical anymore given current realities.
Couple questions. Should we, if we changed and the applicant can raise chickens for eggs or chickens for chickens, does that become a home occupation? And why I ask, the ZBA has to approve home occupations every year. And the other thing, chicken seems to inflame a lot of people, but would it matter if it was pheasants, quail, rabbit, minks?
That's true.
Same
You know,
concept, sorry.
So is it the animal that we're talking about, or is it what they could do in the future? Because
Yeah, well, I don't think, that raising chickens or for eggs for yourself is a home occupation. If you start selling it,
okay,
then I think you got a different issue.
Then you
But
got
I
home
think,
occupancy.
but as soon as you allow, under your ordinance, somebody to do some kind of farm type activity, right, the Farm Act comes in. Okay, and then what you think you might have had control over, you no longer have control over.
well, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be chickens, it could be anything.
Right. So it's tough. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I mean, and the temptation is to debate about chickens, and that's not.
No.
That's not really the question.
It is
Whether we like
absolutely
chickens
the
or don't
rezoning.
like chickens.
Because if it
It's
was about
pragmatic,
chickens,
like-
we would have I would have no problem. But I don't think it's about chickens.
All right, then.
Then it is.
Is there any other public comment? If not, the second reading will be on August 8th, and that is when we will vote. And again, it is for rezoning. Unfinished business, a reception for Richard Cooley. It's going to be on August the 1st, Monday, from 5 to 8. We've invited most of the legal.
Yes, it did go out in the Bar Association.
Okay.
It was sprayed to everybody that subscribed to the email.
Okay.
I got it. As soon as Amanda got it.
And I cannot
Actually,
remember
Judge
how many
Beagle asked me
years.
about it
Tom,
today, so-
40,
The community must know about it because I was at a function.
45 years. So I hope this whole board at least shows up for Mr. Cooley.
Are we going to roast him?
No. No, we won't do that to him. All right, the next item, thank you. The next item on the docket is resolution number 2016-09, schedule public hearing at a special assessment roll for Lake Valley Road Improvement Special Assessment District. Operation Manager Tom Broger, would you explain, because Tom has been working with the residents and in regards to this road or
Yes.
roads?
As I pointed out in the memo that was in the packet, the road commission actually opened the bids for the project today. The original estimate we had from a year ago, the construction cost was $735. Once they'd done their engineering, their pre-bid estimate, I believe, was about $756, and the low bid was $748.8. So about 1% under their pre-bid estimate. Low bidder was Zito Construction, a well-known, very good company.
Very good company.
So they anticipate that contract will be awarded on the 16th of August with construction starting 10 days thereafter. In order to get the financing in place, we need to confirm a special assessment roll and then get Mr. Traciak and Mr. Mann involved to get bonds issued to finance the cost of the project. So what we have is now an updated special assessment roll and a resolution to schedule a hearing on that roll for our next meeting.
And Tom, it is for how many years?
We're proposing a 15-year assessment due to the relatively large amount. We're looking at about 12.6 or 12.7 per property in the district. And so spreading that over 15 years gives them a little less each year to have to pay. Of course, once it's done, every property owner will have the option of paying it off at any time if they so choose. But for those who want to pay it in installments, then a 15-year assessment will be a little easier for them.
Well, there's quite a few people, 61 parcels, so.
There are two that are not being assessed. The Property Owners Association, I understand. Why is the Flooding Family Trust parcel not being assessed?
That is, I believe, a piece of an original lot that they just never added. They told me they're planning to add it to theirs. I don't believe it's even big enough to build on. It's adjacent to their home. the remainder of the parcel was, the remainder of the lot is owned by somebody else and it is being assessed. It was a piece of the lot that they just hadn't combined with their property yet.
Should we require that?
We
I'd
could-
say we should.
I mean,
Yeah.
How big is the piece, Tom?
Pardon?
How big is it?
I don't have that handy. I can find out.
But
And
these
then-
folks are being assessed in on another
Right.
parcel?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's a vacant part of a lot that's adjacent to their home, and their home is being assessed.
Okay.
There are about 6 items up. It's the same.
Yeah.
Flooding,
Same
Oh,
address.
same trust there. Oh,
Yeah.
parcel 060. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Resolution number 2016-09. Clerk Crew, would you please read the resolution?
I don't know, John did a real good job before. What's that? Oh, I even get a new one. You guys don't even have this. Whereas the supervisor and assessing officer of Fenton Township has, in accordance with the resolution of the Fenton Township Board and the laws and statutes pertinent thereto, prepared a special assessment roll total of $778,862, covering all parcels of land in the Lake Valley Road Improvement Special Assessment District, and as affixed thereto her certificate as required by said resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that said special assessment roll shall be filed with the township clerk and shall be available for public examination during regular business hours of regular business days from the present date until the public hearing upon the same, and shall further be examined at such public hearing. And be it further resolved that the Fenton Township Board shall meet at 7:30 p.m. on August 8th, 2016 at the Fenton Township Civic Community Center located at 12060 Manitowoc Drive within the township to review such special assessment roll and hear any objections thereto. And be it finally resolved that the township clerk shall cause notice of such hearing and the filing of such assessment roll to be published twice in the paper of local circulation prior to the date of the hearing, with the first publication being no less than 10 days prior to the hearing, and shall further cause notice of such hearing to be mailed by first-class mail to all owners of or persons having an ownership interest in the property within the Lake Valley Road Improvement Special Assessment District as shown on the current assessment rolls of the township, also at least 10 days prior to hearing, all in accordance with the law and statute provided. I'll move the resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mathis.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
I vote yes. Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Shoemaker.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right. Are there any other comments from the board members?
There's a couple, and there's a couple of things I'd like to let everybody know. Last Thursday, we had what I feel, a good meeting with Representative Graves and the people from Lara. Lara is the conglomerate or whatever that covers mobile homes. They talked quite intently, answered our questions, and were quite upfront. At least I felt that way. Mr. Kessler and Mr. Shoemaker were also there. So the one thing, and it leads right to Amanda or Jack, one of the things they mentioned was that some communities have used a inspection ordinance to get into these homes. And when we discussed it and expanded it, not wanting to infringe on Bob Krug renting his house while he goes to Florida for 3 months, or on an individual versus a company or corporation that makes money from the rentals, we are asking, can we use the same precedents we do for our ordinance violations? And what I mean by that, we only react if there is a complaint. So could this be complaint driven and not a mass, everything that's rented has to be inspected?
So what you're saying is have a rental ordinance in place, but enforce it like we do everything else.
Yeah.
Enforce it only, yeah, if there,
Go ahead, please.
only if there is a complaint, because when we sat through the meeting, you know, the Association of Lansing or whatever, what is it called? Laura, you know, insisted we couldn't do, you know, certain things, and obviously we all know we can't just target an apartment or a trailer park or whatever else like that. It would have to be passed on to anyone. And
Yeah.
you know how I feel. I don't want to stick my nose in anybody's business if I don't have to, but I feel differently, and I think Bob feels that way, and I think Rob felt the same way, is if it is a actual business, they're making money, maybe there's some way we could get around that, because they are a business, you know, and create an ordinance just that would apply to, you know, a corporation renting a residence or not. So no, okay.
That wouldn't work. You got equal protection, and you know,
But if it was,
'cause anybody's making money if they're renting. It doesn't matter.
So if we create an ordinance that was just in place on a complaint, you still couldn't do it just a business. It would have to be.
It'd have to be everything. It would be
Yeah,
rental,
but
rental
we
activity.
could,
For a resident or a corporation.
it would be less impactful. It wouldn't be everybody has to pay a $250 rental inspection every year, where if I'm renting something and it's inadequate, inappropriate, unsafe, if somebody complains, it's at that point they would go in, be it a private and/or.
You said other communities do this?
Well, other communities do rental inspections, and most of them are every 3 years, and they charge a fee. You know, my concern was, there's a couple things. You know, I had an example which might.
I guess where would the issue, why wouldn't we be able to do that if we have an ordinance in place and say a renter complains, what protection do they have if we don't have this in place?
Well, there's no ordinance.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, why would that be an issue if we did pass this ordinance? And say somebody at the trailer park wants to complain about the conditions, now they've got a process to do it. How's that targeting anybody?
Well, and the one thing we gotta be real careful with is we just don't bring it down to a point and say trailer parks. Rental is a rental.
Protect any renter.
Oh, yeah, that'd be bad.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, we can't say we're gonna do it on trailer parks. It's gotta be, and we were
All
trying to come up with a method or process where we don't abuse the issue, but if somebody complains. Because the only other issue, and guys jump in because you were there, was if we approach and go, as we've been trying, the county to enforce health regulations and building codes. But we did find out that this group, and was shocking Thursday, have not received one complaint, or in their, was it May? They did an inspection. They found not one thing wrong with Eastview Trailer Park.
the commission that are
Because
all,
the only buildings they can go in are common buildings for everyone, which Eastview does
Doesn't have
not
one.
exist. And if they had a playground for residents' children, they could inspect and control that that was a safe area to play. But we really shocked them when we're complaining about one. They couldn't ever find a complaint about Eastview.
this is the same commission that's made up of owners of
Right.
trailer parks. Totally
Well,
understandable.
it's the only thing we,
Totally understandable.
so, Amanda, is there any way to,
Can I ask a question? To me, it sounds like there's some interest in going into these homes, like actually going into these homes.
well,
I have a problem with that. So that requires a warrant, generally speaking. If you're talking apartment complex, for example, the landlord would provide notice, and there's an inspection process that you go through. It's tricky. It's tricky there.
No,
There's an expectation of privacy. And the biggest issue,
right.
as you all said, is you cannot treat this trailer park any different than you're going to treat
Schofields.
Bonnie that rents her
Yeah.
condo out.
are we able, pardon me, to go in if a resident in a rental unit, be it apartment, trailer, home,
If I let you
calls
into
and
my home,
said, there's a problem here, I have black mold,
come
I
look at
have
my home,
rats.
come to my home and look at my home. Oh, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
No, I don't have a problem with that. I just, you gotta be careful when you're telling people, we have this ordinance where we can come into your house.
well, I got your
Yeah,
number
I
on speed
wouldn't want
dial
that.
if I need bail, so.
I got
I'm
that number,
flexible.
I got that number blocked, Bob.
Well, what we'll do is,
So I don't know what to do, but
we'll let
they
Mr.
thought-
Belzer and Amanda
We'll look
look into it.
The general thing is an ordinance regarding rental inspections. We want to be able to inspect these, whether they're businesses or individuals that are renting out, whether they're homes or mobile homes or apartments.
I'm told that the city of Fenton has such a,
The amount of
And the
apartment
city of
houses.
Burton does as
City
well.
of Flint,
I mean,
City of
we-
Flint does.
Flint
Yes,
Township,
it's
Flint
not-
Township does. I
I don't know if they all enforce it though. Flint was
I don't
gung
wanna do
ho
it.
20 years ago, but
you get a senior citizen that, you know what, guess what? Can't really afford her house, so she rents it out, and you're gonna charge every 3 years to come in. Or, you know, I was laying out a situation that happened to my father. He was in Flint Township. Guess what? He's got a girl with a baby that wants to move in, and guess what? We got a smoke detector with a battery. Gotta wait, have the inspector come back, so the girl can't move in with her baby because you got a silly battery. But it's a fine line. You know, I do want to protect the residents that would rent a house in our township, but I also don't want to penalize the residents who are doing a great job and renting their property, and we don't have any problem.
and what I think, because of the issue we've been dealing with for so long, people don't understand is that those residents have rights.
They have a right.
And we're kind of losing track of that in the process. And I'm not trying to steer what we do one way or the other, but the way it starts is most of them have a lease. Not all of them, but most of them. Okay? And the lease lays out who's got the duty to do this and who's got the duty to do that, as far as maintenance, all that kind of thing. If your landlord isn't doing it, you can take them to court. Okay? Lack of information, especially, you know, in these kind of settings, people don't know those rights. They don't know, you know, legal aid is there to help them, that sort of thing. What people don't understand also is there's a statute that pertains strictly to residential properties for renting. I can't give you a lease to rent a residential property for 6 months where I make you maintain the property. Do they exist? By the hundreds, by the thousands, they're out there.
They're not enforceable. Okay? By law, in order to pass that maintenance obligation on to the tenant, it's got to be at least a year long. Most people don't know that. Most residents in those scenarios don't know that. So they're sitting here thinking, oh, my lease says I got to do this maintenance and I'm not happy about X or Y or Z, when in reality, it's the landlord that's supposed to be doing X and Y and Z. And so, what we have to look at when we're doing this is, do we as a municipality want to get into the enforcement business in renting? I'm not trying to tell you that there's a right or a wrong way to answer that question. There's a civil way to deal with that. But, to answer your question, Mark, if we don't have an ordinance and they invite us in, all we can do is go and say, this is a code violation, this isn't a code violation. We can't look at their lease and say, hey, landlord, you're not following the lease. You got, black mold, so you're constructively evicted. There's a really big education hole that we're,
Are we chasing our tail, John?
No, I'm not trying to.
No,
Here's the flaw though. Let's say they do a black mold, they do call someone out. County Health Department's supposed to come take care of it.
Well, but
I don't want to tell my residents to put their eggs in that basket.
If it's truly black mold, you can stop paying rent. You put it in escrow, and the landlord takes you to court. You say, I got black mold, and until that gets fixed.
But most of these people, like you said, John,
I know,
are not of that. Are not going to do that. They're so busy with their life. They're trying to get by. Or guess what? They're worried about the consequence because they don't have any place else to go. So, it's.
But Sean, that's a problem to me because that's the way that the system works, and we don't as a township. What scares me, just the opposite end. One thing that I understand, and I feel sorry for these people that have to drive past that trailer park every day. But the one thing that's absent in every one of these meetings that they've attended, every one, is a resident.
A what?
Never once have we had a resident here that said, I don't like where I live, I have black mold, I have sparks flying out of my trailer that's hitting my kids in the face, I've been in the hospital 3 times. So where do we, I think we are chasing our tails, I'm sorry. Mr. Tucker, but I'm telling you, we've had this conversation over and over and over. I think if you're renting, you're right. You're right, Sean. They probably are scared. But that's the only action they have is a civil action. And Trustee Tucker is right. They can withhold rent. They can put it in escrow. They can find a free attorney. But we as a township, I don't think we want to get involved in trying to fix this problem. I mean, if they can go to a tenant, someone that's renting there to fix the problem, that's where it should be. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
well, that's the way it's structured now. The question is, do we want to change that? That's really the issue that you guys are raising.
You know what? I'm going to have to cut this.
Is my 5 minutes done?
Yes. It's after 9. We could go on and on and on, and then I'm going to let the public speak for like about 5 minutes. We've got some big topics that we have to get into.
It's a good question.
But it's a good question. We'll have Mr. Belzer and Amanda look at it.
One other thing, Bonnie. Let's put together, and we don't have to do it right now. Schedule it, but let's put together a workshop over this issue, so we can
now talk about it.
So we can actually have.
We need a lot of time to talk.
They've spent enough time. You know what? We should too.
But we got to get the opinions of the attorneys.
And that's what I'm saying.
That.
You're gonna need something. And Bob and I were very clear on that. That we aren't attorneys. We don't know what we.
You're right.
We got an idea what we can do, but guess what? My ideas of what I can do, what probably.
But it was mentioned before to Mr. Belzer. All right, now I'm going to open it up for public comment. I'm going to have to let you only speak for 5 minutes, and you're welcome to come up. Is there any? There you go.
I don't need to come up. I'm just Maggie Ehrman. I presented last month for the Shiawassee Heritage Water Trail, and I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for including that in your plan, and thank you for passing it. That's all I wanted.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I had one more board comment.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'll try and be brief. The Laring Road overpass was damaged and it's closed and all that. I had asked Tom to follow through with MDOT when the plans were there, because I wanted to try and utilize that as an opportunity to get a non-motorized pathway across that when they're trying to fix it. Short story is, they said, no, we can't.
Can't do
Because
it.
they're not
How
going
many
to
of you were
replace
copying
it.
No. That's right.
Well, what they're worried about is they're going after the insurance company for the cost of the repairs, and if they start changing things, the insurance company. So I get it, but you know, my initial thought when I looked at it is there's no way there's enough insurance to cover what they're going to have to do to this, so it's not going to matter. But according to MDOT, it does matter.
Yeah, they're not going to replace it anyway. They're just
No,
going to straighten the beam and maybe
straighten the
replace
beam.
one beam, but not.
Well, the 2 beams are coming in new, and if you added 2 more beams while you were doing it,
Yeah.
you know, but that's, you know,
But the
we
cost
made
is
the
gonna be
effort.
the contractor.
I gave the
going after
impassioned
them.
plea, and they
We
said
tried,
the
you
correct
tried.
things. They said, yeah, we'd really like that too, but.
All right.
What do you want, Lawrence?
Oh, he's here for our workshop.
No, I know what he's here
Oh,
for.
okay.
He's just got that look. He's got that look.
Are we adjourned?
Yes, I'll say good evening, the meeting's adjourned.
Okay.